so is the Holy Spirit. And together, just let whatever needs to come up and be shared. Be shared, and if there's any questions at any point too, we can definitely go into those. We may have a guest speaker come up at some point. But the theme for today, welcome Dave and Eddie, is do not see error. We are really, again, back into this theme. As of last night, we watched a movie called 12 Years a Slave, where we kind of knew it would be a bit of a mind watcher, but the theme being that a free man was born, had a crazy idea that slavery was better, played that out for 12 years, and then through the sleep of the saying last night, a full acceptance of the circumstances and the state of mind that he was in, a singing occurred, a fresh singing, and then the world started to change, and his friends, his mighty companions came and grabbed him from the slavery pile, or slavery state of Georgia, and said, no, this is not where you belong. You belong back at home with God. And actually the closing scene, the final scene of the movie was, he was standing there in front of his family, his mighty companions, who he remembered from a long time ago, 12 years. And he just said to them, I'm sorry. I thought it was really beautiful, because he's like, I'm sorry I had a bad dream where I was a slave. And I don't remember you. But thank you. And the wife, the mighty companion, walked up to him and said, he said, please forgive me. And she said, there's nothing to forgive. And the movie ended. It's like he was back in the arms of God again. And there was many temptations throughout the movie to think that something was wrong, or that you or your brother were unfairly treated. But from the Course in Miracles, beware of the temptation to perceive yourself or your brother as unfairly treated. And so that was a great movie to look at the temptation that even what the world would call our extreme circumstances, black slavery in the 1800s. No, not even there. It's just a distraction. The whole world is a distraction from remembering that the unfairness is a decision in mind to forget who you are. And when you make that decision, because it's so intense, you project it out onto the characters, and you seem to have aggressors and oppressors and victims. And we really had a beautiful joining last night around the impossibility of that. And we've kind of made a commitment for the next few days or a week to just really join and do not see error. And so Helena had a beautiful movie come to mind called The End of All Wars. The End of All Wars. And so we're going to watch that today sometime, where maybe you want to share about it, like the Japanese war camp or something like that.
I'm not quite sure. I think it was Korean. Where, it's all kinds of huge forgiveness lessons.
A bunch of prisoners are off in a foreign war camp, and they get a Bible that comes into them. And they use the Bible to say that they're really not in prison. There's a prison of the mind, and they start getting happier and happier and happier. And the guards dissolve in their mind and become kind of one with them and happy. And it's like, I've often thought, prisons, say in America or around the world, you have all these prisoners and the guards. Is there really a difference between the guards who spend all of their days in there and the prisoners who spend? It's just a state of mind of what's free and what is not. So those kind of metaphors of prisons can really be used for do not see error. I'm like, Helena.
about it, but it's just such a deep movie. And yeah, it's like the one and only we can go to. That's our Father. So, no other way. And that was so beautiful. Like Salida, he was feeling yesterday, he was like, wow. And he was like singing this song, A Praise to God by the Grave. One of his friends had died.
Guy in the movie character.
Yeah, and he was like, he was just singing, you know, and just accepting God again. And that's what's so beautiful. It's like after all of the death in the mind, that has to die out. Like everything of what we thought we were, it just has to die. And we come back to God again. And we dare to embrace Him in our hearts. And we feel how He just wants to love us so deeply. It's like being cradled in Him. Being held by Him. It's the most beautiful thing. Yeah. So we're in for a treat today with that movie to end all wars.
I was actually on a walk today
Oh, thank you.
with Anna, and I was looking at all these very beautiful houses along the road, and I was like, look at that prison. Oh, look at that prison. If you believe you were born into a nuclear family, and that you spent 18 years in that house, and that that's your life, there is no difference between that prison and the prison of being seemingly sold into slavery in the 1800s. They were both just decisions, like Neo and Morpheus told Neo in the Matrix. You are a slave. And he thought he was a free man, whether he could choose to go to work or not for these big companies. That you are a slave. You are a prisoner to this world. And it's not dependent on the circumstances. The circumstances just reflect the mind's decision to be trapped. And when that decision is changed, you know, the state of mind is changed and the circumstances will do what they do.
Yeah, and it goes so deep. Like I'm feeling this movie to end all wars. It's like where they have to step into their inspiration. They have to. And that's what's so beautiful. It's like what carries them all. It's really like they all go into, like this one guy, he's about to die, right? And he just wants to die. He's just like, let me just die. And then his friends, his mighty companions come up to him and they just say, no, we'd like you to teach. They say, please teach us. And he's like, he's getting like a thought about it, like, and then it just, it's alive in him. And then he starts sharing. They go all into this house where all these dead bodies are, because that's the only way they wouldn't be caught. You know, so like all the dead bodies around. It's kind of like this world. It's like you go into the world and you have like this deep message, and they found, and they have like later this Bible, right? And they share the message of Jesus, and they have like a spark about someone who had transcended the whole idea. And they know that it's possible by that example. And so they can all join in that, and then they can just pierce through.
Jesus on the cross, like, he demonstrated, like that rock out there in our things is, demonstrate that I did not die
in vain.
in vain by demonstrating that I live in you. the death of the body is literally nothing. No.
Yeah.
He transcended that.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is like when everyone gets to share, it's like this guy, he knows like Shakespeare. One guy, he's like, I gotta teach, I gotta, like, and then he just starts like speaking, these words of Shakespeare, and it's like a spark. And there's someone that is like into Plato, and he's like sitting there and teaching everyone about, what is justice, and they like write justice. They have like a chalkboard, that they've traded in, and they've like smuggled into the camp, right? And it's like justice,
In the prisoner camp.
in the prison camp, and they're like, oh, what does justice mean, And then they like sit there and they talk about it, And then some are musicians, and they all of a sudden get in, these instruments in there. Once the prison guards see what this book was doing to them, which they took away from them, they take away the Bible because they're like, what is this? They're like, they catch them, they got caught, right? And so they say, this is not good, this is like, you can't have this. And then when they notice how they are saying, no, how can we help you? How can we build this railroad faster, They just don't argue about it, like, how can we help you, And so it's like a total turnaround. And then the ones that feel to express with music, they express, and it just sounds however it sounds like. And they say, but in their ears, it's like they can all tune into what's beyond. And like this are tuning into what's beyond.
What serves the whole, even in a prison camp?
Yeah. And then everyone can join in that. And that sets the prisoner free. That's like not the physical.
Oh, so beautiful.
I know.
So these movies, they really reflect that there are no victims. That means, for each of us, no matter what it seems to be like, there's an avenue out, and it's a very deep prayer. It's like, show me, if I believe I'm a victim or a prisoner, show me my thoughts, but just keep going deeper. There must be a way out. That's why these movies are so beautiful.
Yeah.
'Cause it's impossible we're a victim of our circumstances. Because there are no circumstances. External to the mind.
Yeah, that's how the movie comes around too, because it is like seeing ourselves and our brothers fully and completely. And to really like see it. I mean, they're like pulling it to the extremes of seeing that, and that's what's so awesome.
True humbleness to say I am the Son of God, and mean it, and come from that place. Like our friend Nikita, we just watched a little video last night. She's in Monterey doing gatherings in Mexico. And she was telling the story of her mother. I said, well, what do you do? What are you doing in your life? And she's like, well, Buddha, there was Buddha. I was like, yes. And there was Jesus. Yes. Well, now there's Nikita.
Yay! There you go.
Acceptance.
It's like, okay, there's nothing.
Yeah.
What can you do but embrace that?
He's a deep teacher. She's such a teacher because it's a deep teaching. She says too, they can think of me like as if I'm dead. My family, they should really think of me like I'm dead. And it's very symbolic because it's the personal self of the family. The daughter is dead. There is no daughter or family concept. The true Nikita, the true self, the Christ, is real.
She was saying like Nicodemus, we just watched the movie Son of God recently, and Jesus and Nicodemus were meeting, and Nicodemus was like, well, what's your message? How do I get into this love and joy that you're experiencing? He says, you must be born again.
Mm-hmm.
Nicodemus is like, how do you born again? Not of the flesh, of the spirit. That's where the born again Christianity came from, but like most often in the world, those teachings are distorted, and it's not just a simple water baptism. It's truly a transformation of mind. Being born again. And that's all we're doing. Like you're talking about inspiration. It's, okay, I give you everything. I give you my life, my money, my relationships, everything. You take them, you use them. I am to be born again. Let this body be used. We were joining on a walk today. And it's like, this isn't a path of like escaping the body or getting into mystical experiences and trying to avoid something or like using hallucinogens. It's like, no, I give you everything. Use it for this total transformation of mind. Because I am mind.
And that's where we have to be convinced. That's what I saw in that movie too. Like all of those prisoners had to be convinced that they were being carried, and when they were just connecting with God, then they could be convinced. That's when all of the prison guards, they turned around. But is that a forgiving God? Because really, it's a rage towards God. And that's what I keep on pointing to. It's like if we project anything onto the characters, we are wrong. And this is so deep. Because we're going to be called to do so many things that we're going to have huge resistances to. Because that's just how it looks like. We created a whole freaking world in our mind. And then we're being called to undo it. Of course we have to go against everything that we taught ourselves. Everything. Without any, like nothing left. And so for that, we have to face everything. And of course, when we're projecting it onto the characters, we are just, it's not it. So it's that deep, deep rage that needs to come up to the right direction. Because we're being caught as long as it's in the form, that's not it. So when we start saying, how dare you? When we start saying that, then we're getting honest with ourselves. And then, when he fills our hearts, it's kind of like in the movie Adam's Apples, when he's just like done everything. He's just like, he's not reacting to anything. He's being beaten up, like he's just all bloody in his face, and he's just like, goes into the kitchen, he's like, oh, I'll just drop by the hospital. He's like all bloody, the nose is just all, cracked and everything. He's like, oh, I'll just go to the hospital, Do you want me to pick up something on the way, He's going through all of those kind of things, right? And he's just totally not seeing anyone. He does not see any error. He's just like, everything is awesome.
It's a Lego movie.
It's a Lego movie. And then he has to face it. It's like, then there's like a guy that is being sent to him that is just pushing everything at him. He's just pushing all buttons. And they have to be pushed. So that he can actually like start directing it, like that deep hurt up to God and just like start doubting God. And that's when, like, God is just totally taking it over, and he's like, he's just like being shot in his head, and it actually turns out that it shoots out his tumor in his head. So he doesn't die. It's like, he's actually being cured. And so it's just so beautiful. It's like we have to be convinced in the slightest willingness, it had to be there still there for him and that. So that's like where we just have that.
You had a beautiful line yesterday because, like you're saying, you got to be convinced. Follow the path, let's do this. Follow. You get convinced that where you thought there was a curse, there's actually a blessing over and over and over again. Otherwise, who would even take this path on? And then last night you said, to know when the time comes that you have to face something. And really go through it. Yeah. That's a beautiful lesson because you're being convinced for those moments when you can feel it's time to move through it and the temptation is, let me walk away from this. it's like, no, I want to end this game
Yeah.
of seek and do not find.
Yeah.
Run away from my mind. And
Yeah, it's very good.
And for me, it's like not running from do not see error. You know, the temptation to think, I'd like to play a song soon, that anything could be different in the slightest way, even if, oh, if I just followed that prompt, or, oh, if I just heard a little bit more Jesus with guidance. Any of that now is actually a distraction from what's being presented over and over, which is nothing can be different. Let all things be exactly as they are. Do we have that song in here?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think I might.
Play that?
Yeah.
So Lisa. Oh, it's
Might be on YouTube otherwise.
Please go.
Yeah, I just,
Composite.
I just had to say, like, it's such a temptation to go into that. Like, even in the prison camp, the guy that actually brings in the Bible, he's actually not collaborating with the others, but he's bringing in the Bible. And therefore they all get the Bible. And then he turns around later on. So it's this collaboration that we cannot understand. And that's what you're getting at. Like, it just looks different to all of us. It never is the same. If we think it's going to look the same as someone else, like a lot of times I hear people asking me, like, what was your last job? Because it sounded like that would be a great last job, you know? What was that? Can you give me the specifics, you know? As if that would be some kind of formula, you know? Which it isn't. It's just got to be so given. And really come to the understanding of letting that be as it is. Because it's so easy to fall into the trap of following and thinking the form. It has to be given. Like you were saying, when we feel, it is given. To be honest with ourselves of that, as much as when the healing comes up, of like actually not being even ready for facing something.
Yeah.
That is as equally as important because we cannot force it.
You're not in charge of your awakening.
No,
Yeah.
and that's very important in this, because otherwise it feels like you're being beaten up more than. Actually, Jesus says it in the Course. He says,
Resistance is I, dedication
exactly.
is we. Do not fight yourself.
Yeah. And so that's very important in this. So let all things be exactly as they are.
I just got an image as you were saying that of there's this man in prison. I haven't seen the movie, but bringing in the Bible was that he was the one that was able to see the unity in all things, and as such, he brought that Christ energy out from the most unlikely of places. It's like he was in that unity, and then he birthed that wide vision.
Yeah.
Just, So what came to me the other day is I was hearing, when you focus on error, it's like your vision tunnels down. You only see this. But when you can see, I had trouble at times when I would read in the Course, overlook things. It was like the way I heard it, it's not the way I meant it, but the way I heard it was like, don't see that. But then the image that I got that came through almost immediately was like standing up over a precipice where I could see the whole valley. And that's what the overlook is. That you may still see that temporary disharmony, you see that call for help, but because you're looking from this wide field, what you really see are all the resources that can be directed for healing. And you're not identifying that that's a problem, because when we see a problem, we tend to want to isolate it, and we are blocking it from, we're basically forcing it into separation from rejoining this vast, expanding. This is where we need to see so-called problems from. because then we see the way back out of that separation.
It's like that John Lennon song, there are no problems, only solutions.
Only solutions.
Yeah.
And when we start with that as the assumption that there is a solution, it's already here, then we don't make ourselves small, we don't make them small. I mean, who would think that the Christ would come through a prison? But it did, because he had the vision of this. He didn't see the division between the guard and the prisoners. Like, we're a unity, and we're going to get out of this together. It's like, when we free the prisoner, we free ourselves, and when the prisoner no longer sees them as enemy, then they're not captive anymore. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
That's just a Course in Miracles lesson song. Holy Spirit knows everything. I've never used these things before. How do you turn the volume up? Yeah, that's another great lesson I heard the other day in my mind, that competency is arrogance. that's different than letting your skills be used as part of the washing and the undoing. Of course, that's what we're talking about. But to really believe that I am good at something, or bad, but I'm just talking about good. For me, that's been something. I used to say one thing, I can do anything. I know it. I'm a free man. I can do or learn anything. But
I remember this.
Do you remember? Guess it wasn't too long ago. It's like, who is the I? You know, like we're going so deep that is to be washed in the competency of, I will listen and follow and be so open that the Spirit tells you to spin your finger in this little white thing. You know, it's helpful to the whole. If you think you know, it just blocks. And I'm loving that. Really. That's why, you know, one of the great things to block the love of God is to get good in this world and to think you know how to survive. And I did. Oh yeah, do this, good job, good job. Very simple, cushy, you got your house. Great, prison is well set up. You know, the ego is happy with that. But it's those that are falling apart, aren't doing well, that are most often able to accept, you know, the breakthrough needed, like the ones who go through AA or all of that kind of stuff. You think you're better than having to need those programs. Well, that's what the Course in Miracles was for. You know, a program for those who may not have needed a lot of the other programs.
Gosh, sure, since you said that. Yesterday I was kind of in this non-ordinary state most of the day, but I had this funny image of like a 12-step meeting, and all of us sitting in a circle, and I was like, hello, my name is Sarah, I've been in separation. This is how it manifests for me. It was hilarious.
I think I've done good here, bad there.
It's like we're all in the circle together.
Our group, hello, my name is whatever, and I have a perceptual problem.
It is that idea of acceptance, you know, what came to me, it's like so many things in the Course, there's such layered meaning. You can go so deep with it. You know, it's letting things be as they are, and then what I started really becoming aware of is to really say yes to it. All of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know, it's to say, yes, this is here, and when we are in that state of love, that we see everything, no matter how horrific, as all that it is a call for help. And that when we can truly surrender to see, you know, the devastation of what we've done because we've been in an egoic mind, to see with the eyes of the Holy Spirit that everything is redeemable, everything can be healed, and that we bring this giant yes to accepting everything that's here. And I just lost my train. We bring this yes, and it's from what's coming to me is that when we're really in this place, that our healing becomes an act of incredible joy. That our acts, that our movement towards healing become our devotion to God. We're going to heal this. We're not going to judge it. We're not going to condemn people. It's like we're all coming off the cross together. Yes. There is no, you know, as Jesus said, what came yesterday is right when talk about atonement. You know, right in the very moment where he is being crucified. In that very moment, he is offering the prayer of forgiveness. These, my brothers, don't even know who they are. If they knew they were Christ too, they wouldn't be doing this. And to be able to hold that consciousness in that moment, what I got was like, because he could do it in that moment, it was like the ripples expanded. And that was the explosion. The Christ consciousness that is the Savior of our planet. doesn't mean you can do it, and whether you're a prisoner on the cross, to see the truth. That person's acting not okay, but they're doing it not because they're evil, they're not bad. They just don't know who they are. And so anyway, it's just like I think that's the opportunity we have at this moment to bring forth this Christ consciousness on this planet. And it's going to transform things that so many people have given up on. Just, yes, we're here, Christ.
And there's no order of difficulty in that application, like the cross or the slightest irritation. Actually, yesterday, Chris and I were in my room, and I locked the door because I felt to share exactly what you're saying, my experience, that there's no interference and nothing can be harmed. You know, it's time to let the cross go. And right as we're sharing that, there's a knock on the door. And I just let it go and just keep sharing, and then the door is trying to be opened. And, hello, can we come in on this like live stream with this message? And it's like, no, we're busy. And I was like, oh man, this was my opportunity.
I'm like, Jason.
And she's wanting to come in and extend the same message, apparently. I found out later. I'm like, can't you see I'm doing a message on this?
And they were like, we're on a live recording.
And it wasn't the behaviors or anything, but it was like just being really honest with, there was like a little charge there about an interference, and then it's like, okay, stop the production, you know, use it, and that's coming off the cross. That's like, you know, we're not probably going to be asked to go on cross and practice this, but it's in every moment the impossibility of interference.
Yeah, I feel like it's like bringing in your brother. That's what you were saying, and with that, I feel it's like we do not see error. It cannot be so that it is. Like I hear you saying when Jesus is hanging there on the cross and he says, "Forgive them, for they do not know what they do," and then it's like this of. Then again, like it's easy to get into the separation with that. And then seeing beyond that, of just like not doing that, but bringing the stranger in. If we have any like emotion about it, then it's something that still needs to be healed. And if it's just like free, and it's like not any contraction with it, then we can join in that Christ mind.
It's what I got. Sometimes playing with the wording of things in the tiniest little way just totally flips my mind. And what came through a few days ago was, you know, we hear in so many different spiritual texts, we can't go to God alone, we can't go back to heaven alone. And then just one more line, we can't go to God alone because God is not alone. God is all. And so if we are trying to come alone, we aren't in that state. We have to be willing, however you want to say it, accept it or realize there is no small I. We have experience of it, but unless we're asking all questions as I, the one, the many in the one, we aren't in that place of love that holds and unifies it all.
Services. Can you believe, like, this is the life we live, our whole lives just devoted to this experience and this sharing and collaboration. That's it. There's no other purpose for life, for living. I can think of Joey who's offered to travel around the world with medicine for the people, which is a quote spiritual band. And he's like, no, I'm not into the music. I'm into waking up. Of course, the music comes in as part of the extension and the undoing, but just to have your purpose so out in front that your no's can be no's and your yeses can be yeses. Very good.
I could change my mind. This is my life. The other day. Just add a little different spell. This is my life. This is my life. Yay.
There's a way out. Just knowing there's a way out.
Mm.
That's why these prison movies and Jesus movies, it's like, cannot be reminded enough that there's a way out. That's all we're doing. There's a way out. Let's share our experiences. Let's collaborate. Let's save time for each other. Undo the idea of time.
I'm thinking of that song that you mixed with David speaking and the kids sharing again, this where David is talking about that we are all one and that your brother is you. And then you just go with yay, all of the kids you just go like yay, that one.
Yeah, we could end on that.
Oh, that
That's
was
a
wonderful.
great-
If we have that
yeah,
one, that
Oh
would be,
my god.
if we have that one on.
I don't think I have that one.
I have in my
Yeah, go
other
ahead.
prayer.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I watched this YouTube yesterday, it was like this baby that was laughing from the guts, It was like, just go,
Thank you.
you just hear how it's just like, she's so beautiful, and it's just, the world will end in laughter. And I'm thinking of the movie, like, that Time movie where he's like on the train, and he's,
Oh, source code.
yeah, when he's just trying to figure it all out, and then in the end it's just like all laughter, and they're just joining and just having fun together. Like that there's nothing else going on, but just joining in that.
Oh, that's a great movie for Steve O'Hara. He's
Yeah.
constantly practicing where he sees a problem until
Yeah,
he deletes it.
yeah. Yeah, and it was so funny because when Alan and I were on our way to Spain, we went into a cart, and well, anyhow, I was going to go to the bathroom, right? And it was like up in the ceiling. It was like this sticker that was up there. It was like no people allowed, and it was right on like a thing that he went into, like what is that called? Like yeah. He was like walking up there, to try to to dismantle the bomb, right? And so it was like, don't go up there. Don't go.
Oh, the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Don't
like,
try to resolve.
don't go on the personal line. You cannot solve anything on on a horizontal level. Don't even go up there. That was the first thing. And then I was like, it was so hilarious. I took a photo of it, and I was thinking I would share it on Facebook. And I was like sitting there, just like, yay, so awesome. And we just, and I had the movie in mind, source code, and then I was like sitting in the car, and as I was typing it out, the whole wagon there, they just went like laughing hysterically, like from the guts too, and then like the whole wagon, and I was like, whoa, what a reflection of my mind, right? And then we go out of the train, and I'm like sharing it with like a couple that is like coming up there, they're like kissing and just like so joining in. And I was like, whoa! I was like in this experience at in the bathroom, And I was like, have you seen this movie Source Code? And we were like sharing, no, what is it called? And they were like just joining in the glee, And then we came to Spain, and obviously Ludwig, he had the same movie coming into him, Source Code, and we watched it, and it was like out of this world. I mean, it was just beautiful, and that I felt like that was like the whole thing of just there's not any problem to solve. It's just what is given now, and that's what we're on to. It's like we cannot. And that's how we see no people. That's how we can see no error when we're having it given. That's the way out, and that's when we can see that there is no separation, but it's a state of mind that we're just sharing. It's like the love. It's like that's what connects us. And then we see who we are. When we see error, then it's just like another undoing of, feeling a call for love, but that has to be translated too. It's like call for love has to end. It has to be a transition into just feeling ourselves in everything and everyone. Yeah. Love and childish joy. Yeah, okay.
Puffy love it's called.
Because as your heart opens and the vibration of love starts to grow stronger and stronger, you start to recognize them as yourself. You're not your brother's keeper or your sister's keeper. You start to realize that you literally are your brother. You literally are your sister. I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me.
Take it back.
I'm just feeling all these gratitude tears. Of that experience of fully seeing and fully fully feeling that experience. It's so beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing that there is. No wonder all the children are so happy. And that song is just